In the picturesque valleys of South Wales, on a chilly November day in 2014, stood the modest Cerys Yemm Hotel. With its 9 rooms, 5 doubles, 3 singles, and a cozy family room, it offered a quiet retreat for weary travelers. But this unassuming hotel had a deeper purpose. The local council had repurposed it as temporary accommodation for those released from prison or facing homelessness. And it was here, in this unlikely setting, that we meet 34-year-old Matthew Williams. Matthew, the eldest of 4 brothers, had a tumultuous upbringing. His parents divorced when he was just 10, and by the age of 11, he was already experimenting with cannabis. School didn't fare much better for him. He was expelled at 13 due to his involvement in physical altercations. By 15, he had given up on formal education altogether. Despite several attempts to seek help for his escalating substance issues, Matthew found it nearly impossible to break free from his habits. His struggle led him down a dark path, a life of crime. At just 15, he received his first custodial sentence in a young offenders institute. Over the years, his criminal record grew, accumulating 26 convictions for a staggering 78 offenses. From assault to drug-related charges, Matthew's life seemed entwined with lawbreaking. In 1997, after charges of burglary and attempted theft, Matthew was referred to a mental health service. However, his stay was short-lived. Within hours of admission, he violated the unit's drug-free policy. Despite new laws, Matthew's criminal activities and substance abuse continued, resulting in multiple stints behind bars. In 2004, Matthew received a diagnosis of schizophrenia, a mental health condition that would later be disputed by professionals. He was admitted to a psychiatric unit under the Mental Health Act. But this care was cut short in February 2005 when he was sentenced to 5 years in prison for burglary, theft, and wounding offenses. Further burglary charges led to another prison term in year 2009. During his incarceration, Matthew was prescribed medication to address his mental health issues, hallucinations, paranoia, and hearing voices. Unfortunately, he often refused treatment, exacerbating his struggles. Matthew, who had been prescribed medication, stopped taking it for various reasons. He was concerned about side effects and doubted its effectiveness. In 2014, his prescription was terminated due to a lack of reported symptoms. Surprisingly, professionals noted that he was functioning well, even securing a job as a prison barber. Upon completing his 27-month sentence, Matthew was released without the usual supervision requirements, medication, or a referral to the community mental health team. His release was conditional on contacting his general practitioner if any mental health issues arose. After leaving prison, Matthew declined voluntary support for substance misuse, employment, and housing, citing his awareness of police and probation. He was granted a room at the Cerys Yemm Hotel, but soon after, he began struggling with his mental well-being. His mother, Sally Ann Williams, later revealed that he experienced hallucinations, including seeing faces in everyday objects. These signs of mental distress foreshadowed a gruesome event. In October, Matthew met Cerys Yemm, a 22-year-old saleswoman. Cerys Yemm was outgoing and full of life, but she had her own struggles. Her ex-boyfriend, Matthew Hyman, had been arrested after their breakup. He attempted suicide by setting his house on fire. Cerys Yemm and Matthew exchanged text messages, despite warnings from one of Cerys Yemm's ex-boyfriends who had been in prison with Matthew. On the evening of November 6, 2014, Cerys Yemm visited Matthew's room at the Cerys Yemm Hotel. It would be the last time she was seen alive. Mandy Miles, the hotel proprietor, heard screams from Matthew's room and discovered a horrifying scene. Matthew was stabbing Cerys Yemm's body with a screwdriver and eating her face. Mandy called emergency services, describing it as a cannibal attack. When the police arrived, they tried to stop Matthew, but he didn't respond. They had no choice but to use a taser. Tragically, Matthew became unresponsive and died shortly afterward. The tragic events surrounding Cerys Yemm and Matthew Williams are deeply disturbing. Cerys Yemm, a young woman with her whole life ahead of her, met Matthew, a 34-year-old fitness fanatic with a violent past. Their encounter would lead to a horrifying act of violence described as cannibalism. Matthew Williams had been living in a hostel after being released from prison. Despite serving almost half of a 5-year sentence for assaulting a former girlfriend, he was allowed to reside in this residential community. The circumstances surrounding his presence there raise questions about why someone with such a violent history was given this opportunity. Cerys Yemm's cause of death was determined to be sharp force trauma to the head and neck, resulting in external blood loss and internal bleeding. The postmortem revealed 24 separate areas of injury, including at least 89 individual injuries involving blunt force trauma, biting, and cutting. Despite the bite marks and blood around Matthew's face, the coroner stated that he didn't actually consume any flesh. Nevertheless, the attack was described as cannibalistic. Witnesses reported that Matthew seemed possessed during the attack, making any attempts to reach him futile. Authorities believe he was experiencing a schizophrenic episode exacerbated by substance use and binge drinking in the days leading up to the tragedy. An inquest into the incident examined Matthew's mental health struggles, interactions with mental health services, and criminal history. Ultimately, it was determined that his death resulted from a sudden, unanticipated fatality due to the combined effects of substance use and resistance to restraint. Cerys Yemm's family remembers her as a kind and caring person who always saw the best in others. Matthew's mother, Sally Ann Williams, revealed that her son had been diagnosed with schizophrenia and complained of hearing voices before the fatal encounter. Sadly, the lack of mental health support after his release contributed to this devastating outcome. The loss of Cerys Yemm remains unbearable for her loved ones, and her memory serves as a reminder of the importance of mental health care and community safety.